One of the biggest challenges that I run into when I do start working with a company is establishing the rules of engagement and expectations. Now, some of that is around
Yes.
what does success look like? Being realistic and setting both sides up for success in terms of saying, yes, we can achieve 40% growth in a year. 300% growth, maybe not so much. That's one. But the second one, and I think this is sometimes more challenging, is how much are you going to get from me in terms of time and commitment? I could work for you for 3 hours a week. I could work 8 or 2 or 3 days. And then how do you manage what I call service creep? I want you to do these things, and then I want you to do these things and these things and these things. And then all of a sudden, your fractional CMO is really a full time CMO because you're relying on them that much. So, what's your experience in terms of being very clear about how we're going to work together, how much you can expect from me, how much time I'm going to commit to you, and what success looks like? Because you don't tee that up. If you don't get those all established before the engagement starts, then you're going to run into problems. At some point in time, either you or the client is going to be unhappy, and that's just a recipe for disaster. So, what is your approach to setting expectations and the rules of engagement?
A, you're absolutely right. B, I take it back to the engagement contract that we set up in the beginning. That at least sets the broad strokes of what the scope of this thing looks like. And you're right, scope creep is an incredible pitfall to fall into because they do start once they see some activity and see things changing and see you engaging with other people in the company and making things happen. Then the competence kind of sorts to ooze out and they go, oh, this is a guy I can trust to get stuff done. Why don't we stick this on him? And why don't we have him do this? And why don't we run with this? And that's okay. You can do that, but it's going to take away from this other thing that we've already talked about. My plate is of a limited size because that's what we've agreed on in terms of number of hours. I know my speed and my efficiency levels and my productivity levels. I'm telling you now that you've just taken away about a third of what was on that plate for the new things you just tossed on there. So you have to prioritize which one of those things you want. That's a difficult conversation to have the first time. After that, they get the message really quickly because it works out well. And they understand that, okay, which one would you deprioritize to get this new thing? So part of it is understanding that you do have a mind of your own and you're not shaking in your boots all the time, worried about one of these erratic CEOs is going to fire you on the spot out of pique. You've got your own standards and you're going to maintain them and hold them. That's part of setting expectation. The other is understanding that not everything happens at once. Rome wasn't built in a day. I got to plan this first. I got to budget it first. I got to figure out what it is you need that's going to work with what you've given me. If I've only got 20 yards of concrete, I'm going to have to make a different kind of house than if you've got 50. It's just that simple. You work with what you're given. So I can either turn around and say, no, that's not enough and ask you more, or I can figure out how to make what you've got work as well as it possibly can. And I generally choose the latter and then show proof of concept. And then I can go back to the well and say, okay, this is how this worked the last time. If you want to up your game, we can go from 20 hours to 30 and we can triple the output budget. And here's what you're going to get now that you're comfortable with it. My goal is to build a machine that works at any level. And the more you fill it up, the faster and more quickly it scales.